So it's a pretty awkward day to be following politics. The truth is that this was a Senate seat that I was half expecting to come up a surprise, although I never made a prediction, so it doesn't really matter. But the Mississippi special election to replace, I believe it was Thad Cochran who retired, as if anybody cared, by the way. Most Americans, by the way, this is the one day in like 30 years that the rest of America cares what happens in Mississippi. To be honest with you, I think you'll see in a second, there are so many people who suddenly cared what happened in Mississippi, and then suddenly, when it didn't go their way, they declared it to be the worst place on earth. So this was Cindy Hyde-Smith, who already was serving in the Senate because she was appointed to serve the remainder of Cochran's term. And let's play this video of her.
In this Senate runoff election, there's a clear difference. It's not just about me. It's about you and what you believe in. If you believe in the right to life, lower taxes, a stronger military, securing the border, protecting our Second Amendment, and all constitutional freedoms, then I'm asking for your vote in the runoff on Tuesday, November 27th, so I can represent our conservative Mississippi values in the United States Senate.
Okay. So everybody was replying to her because, so we'll get to that in a second, but you have all these people. This person wrote a very nice poem. Cindy, go hide under a rock, ready to give up that front row seat. It doesn't even rhyme. And then people are putting nooses, stuff like that. This is technically threatening a public official, by the way. So you just have all of this, all these people, and Jim Carrey here, Mississippi, you are better than these hate mongers. Then you have people tweeting, oh, they're going to take your Social Security and Medicare, or whatever, because Democrats are coming to take your guns. Well, they are coming to take your guns. What do you want? That's not those two are not. They're not self-contradictory. Okay, I think this guy actually is holding a gun in his profile anyway. Stronger military and borders. It's Mississippi, not Texas or California. Espy wants to lower taxes too, so guns and forced pregnancies that lead to babies that get killed by guns and mass shoot. So these people are basically, they're just projecting. This person, I don't know how he got verified. He has less than 5,000 followers anyway. So this person misspelled Espy's name, and everybody's on her because she said so. She said a joke about a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, a joke where it wasn't even a joke. She said that she like somebody invited her to something, and she said, "I'd be delighted as if I was invited to a public hanging." So in Mississippi, of course, there's a lot of lynchings that happened during the Jim Crow era, but it's not a public hanging. Used to be a spectacle, and it didn't matter what race you were. Not that I think it was the smartest thing to say. And by the way, I didn't think that she was the smartest candidate they could have found. But the point of the matter is that she was running against this clown, Mike Espy. I actually talked about this. Let me see here. I talked about it with Alex and Carlos on the other channel on Razor Ray Live Wounds last week. So this is from 1994. Her opponent, Mike Espy, was winning praise as one of the most. So from 1994, Mike Espy was winning praise as one of the most visible and energetic members of the Clinton cabinet. He jetted to the Pacific Northwest during a tainted meat scare, to the flood-ravaged Midwest, to fire-scarred lands in the Rocky Mountains, to a poultry industry conference in Arkansas. But some of Espy's frequent travels played a role in his downfall Monday, when he resigned under pressure from the White House after a lengthy ethics investigation. The resignation, effective December 31st, was accepted with alacrity by President Clinton, who said he thought Espy's decision to leave was appropriate. A top White House official said the investigation had turned up troublesome instances of misconduct, including the use of government-paid travel to the Super Bowl and acceptance of free tickets to sports events from the big Arkansas poultry processor Tyson Foods Incorporated and Chicago-based Quaker Oats Company. Espy, often mentioned as a potential candidate for governor of Mississippi or the U.S. Senate, had tried to deflect criticism by repaying more than $7,500 to the government or private corporations, but he was unable to dispel a suspicion of impropriety that seemed all the more worrisome to the White House because of Clinton's own longtime ties to Tyson. The final straw apparently came last weekend. White House lawyers learned that Espy's reputed girlfriend had accepted a $1,200 college scholarship from a Tyson-funded foundation, the White House officials said. Espy was said to have discouraged his friend Patricia Dempsey from taking the college scholarship. She ignored his advice and accepted it last fall to study at the University of Maryland, though she reportedly later paid back Tyson at Espy's insistence. I now owe it to myself and my family to turn my full attention to defending myself, Espy, age 40, said at a news conference. Wait a second. Let me get something straight here. So, this is weird. His girlfriend. 1 second. 1 second, guys. 1 second. So he, okay. Well, it doesn't say what. So I was wondering maybe you had an affair. That would be okay. I'd probably vote for it. No, I'm just kidding. I don't really care. So he'd been a congressman from Mississippi for 4 terms before he became Secretary of Agriculture, and then he wants to be, after he basically gets the boot from office as Secretary of Agriculture for taking shit under the table from Tyson, who were a major polluter, which it's not okay with me. Okay, all this bullshit. Oh, racism, people are going to feel bad. There's a history, there's connotations or whatever. Fuck it. We're talking about water quality. Talking about water quality. Don't care about your feelings. There's salmonella and shit. So anyway, so this was her opponent, and here he is conceding, I believe.
They're going to close. They're going to close a lot more. We know that. We've called around to the precincts that are still outstanding, and it's very clear to me and to our campaign that there just are not enough votes outstanding to make the difference. So I wanted to come out here tonight and talk about what is still a historic achievement. Let me first say that a minute ago I did call Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith, and I and I congratulated her on her victory tonight, and she has my prayers as she goes to Washington to unite a very divided Mississippi. And she has my prayers and my willingness to help her to do that. So while this is not the result that we were hoping for, I'm very proud of this historic campaign.
So yeah, he got his ass whooped. This is with 99% of precincts reporting. She won by 7%, yet Twitter is still reporting this as a narrow defeat. 7% is not a narrow. It is a narrow defeat by Mississippi standards. I'll grant you that. I will grant you that. I don't think that there's any. So Jim Carrey doesn't give a fuck about Mississippi, but he said, brilliant young women like Jazz Brissac, 2018 Rhodes Scholar from the University of Mississippi, give me hope for the future. Get out and vote for Mike Espy today, Mississippi. That's the man who used to be the great Ace Ventura. And now he So look at the resemblance. This and this. That and that. So what the fuck, man? You're supposed to be climbing out of a rhino's ass, Jim Carrey, and you're stuck tweeting crap about elections in Mississippi. I mean, you were our hope for comedy for the future for years, and now you're tweeting about stupid elections that, honestly, I said last week, and I still maintain, I would not have voted for either candidate. They both seem just terrible to me. But yeah, he sold out for this piece of crap, Mike Espy, the guy who took money from Tyson Chicken during their heavy pollution days. So it says University of Mississippi senior was named the 26th Rhodes Scholar in school history last month and made school history. The Eagle caught up with UM's first female Rhodes Scholar, and she talked about her inspirations and motivations as she accepts one of the most prestigious scholarships in the world. I'm honored to be a role model for other Mississippi girls. So the question was, how does it feel to be UM's first female Rhodes Scholar? I'm honored to be a role model for other Mississippi girls looking for ways to make their voices heard in a state still very much dominated by patriarchal structures. Given that our state amplifies the voices of white supremacist women like Cindy Hyde-Smith who reinforce and uphold misogynist policies, I'm glad to be able to provide a very different example of how an empowered Southern woman acts. Very touching. Who do you hope to inspire with this scholarship? I hope to inspire people to speak out against injustice. That's not very specific. Even when it's difficult or unpopular. I'm a labor organizer, an abortion clinic defender in a state that actively makes those tasks as difficult as possible. I want people to realize that human rights are non-negotiable. And then it goes into some other crap about her time at college. Yeah, it's a bunch of bullshit. But yeah, at least from now on, she'll be seen. She'll be immortalized by the great Jim Carrey. Dear God. Let me see what... I didn't see any of the reactions to this one. Yeah, this is stupid. This is like ridiculous. But anyway, back to Mike Espy. So, where was his? Let's see here, Mike Espy. Oh, here we go. So. And how about some state legislature seats while we're at it? There's people griping at Tom Perez. He said, Espy for Senate ran an incredible campaign. He led with his values and inspired thousands in Mississippi and millions across the U.S. Grateful to him and his staff, volunteers, voters, and Mississippi Democrats for all their hard work. Let's get to work to take back the governor's seat next year. And there's this woman who's complaining about Chuck Schumer as opposed to Nancy Pelosi. In my opinion, they're both dead weight. This is just, it's pathetic here. There was one that I saw earlier. It's pretty funny. Why do you always wait until after the fact and come out of the bag with this shit and as if you are working? Go back to sleep. This person has an interesting strategy. Blah, blah, blah. Get your butt to Mississippi and every bigoted state up the Mississippi and the eastern seaboard. You are complicit. Yeah, that's very... I have to admit that's a very catchy term. Then you have all these people. There were some people who were saying earlier, boycott Mississippi. Let's see if I can find one. If the voters of Mississippi vote for the other candidate, I suggest you either leave the state or to get with intelligent people or do something to raise the intelligence levels of the Mississippi electorate. What? Who else? This person says, yes, my second time around. What's that supposed to mean? So you voted 2 times. What's another one? Yeah, anyway, so it would be this one, okay? So sorry, I was hoping that you would win. My best to you from California. Let's see if I can find this. This person says, I see a southern tour of Espy for Senate, Andrew Gillum, Stacey Abrams, and Beto O'Rourke rallying voter registration drives and enthusiasm in the cities and college campuses for you all to make another run in 2020. Rest now, be there's more work to be done. So this person's obviously a Beyonce freak or something. I mean, this is just ridiculous. This person says, honestly, if you're a Democrat in Mississippi, just move to a blue state and let the racists have nothing. They voted for nothing. Give them what they voted for and don't spend a blue state dime to bail them out. I couldn't agree more. Get the fuck out of Mississippi, Democrats. Get the fuck out. So anyway, we had enough time just looking through people's dumb reactions to this. What's the bottom line? What is the bottom line from this election? So the bottom line is that you now see there's 53 Republicans going into the Senate for 2019 now. I know the Republican Party is basically full of crap, and we don't really have much we can expect from it, given that they have just disappointed at every turn. And I would say that, I'm not expecting much important legislation to get passed anyway, because as you can see, the House is going to be 234. It's going to be Democrat, and it's just going to be probably a very gridlocked government for the next couple of years. But for the Senate, everybody obviously knows, given the recent Kavanaugh hearings and the Gorsuch hearings. For those of you that don't have the memory of a fucking mouse. So Donald Trump last time around, during the last 2 years when he was president, if he nominated a judge, he needed all 51 Republicans on, unless if one person did not vote for his nominee, you would need Mike Pence to walk over from wherever he was and cast the vote as the 101st member of the Senate. He's technically the president of the Senate. Now it doesn't even matter, or I should say this, okay? So with the Republicans last time, or in the last Congress, the one that's just finishing right now. So you had a number of Republicans that were very unreliable for nominations. I'm just talking about nominations now. I'm not talking about laws. I'm not talking about policies. I'm not talking about budgets. I'm just talking about nominations. So this is very important. If you're just talking about nominations, forget what we're talking about with everything else that the Senate does. So the Republicans ended up changing the filibuster rule and they said, well, we're going to eliminate the filibuster rule for Supreme Court justices. Very big step. Now, even with that change, they had a screw up because Jeff Sessions his seat ended up being taken by what's his name, Doug Jones last year in that crazy election with Roy Moore, and Jones is a Democrat. So they went down from 52 to 51. Therefore, the defection of a Republican was much more likely. And you still have Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski and Jeff Flake, who at the time were very unreliable votes on the Republican side when it came to nominations of any type. They're not really Trump supporters to be, in any way, shape, or form. Whether you like Trump or don't like Trump, I think you can probably recognize that these Republican senators, Flake, Murkowski, and Collins, don't really line up with him on a number of issues. So, especially Flake, who is just he's just a weird person. So in any case, now you have 53 senators who are going to be on the Republican side. So they have a cushion of 3. Well, how many unreliable senators are there? It just happens to be. So instead of only being able to lose 1, they can lose 3. So those 3 would now be Mitt Romney, Susan Collins, and Lisa Murkowski. And Mike Pence can still break the tie. So, yeah, for nominations, the GOP has it set. And I would say that is all we need to talk about right now in terms of this race. Cindy Hyde-Smith, I don't think, is going to be a very remarkable senator. I think, in fact, she's going to be just average, if not below average, and probably will just vote straight line Republican on everything. Kind of like the rest of the the Republican party in most of the South. You see a number of these people. Rick Scott, for example, in Florida, might be a little bit of an independent voice, not always for good. But if you look at some of these other ones, like you have Lindsey Graham, you have Roger Wicker, you have the Republican Party, I think, doesn't offer much of a variety of policies in the Senate, and I don't think she's going to be particularly impressive, and I don't think the Republican Party as a whole is being. I mean, look, if the most intelligent people that your party has in the Senate are people like Ted Cruz, or Rand Paul I like, but if Ted Cruz is much more famous than Rand Paul and much more well known. So if Ted Cruz is the man who's considered the intellect of the Republican senators, and he's hated by most of these other senators, and then on the other hand you have people like Rand Paul, who's basically ignored, and the lion's share of the power goes to people like Marco Rubio and Mitch McConnell and people like that. John Cornyn, I think, is intelligent. I just don't really find much interest in him. And frankly, most of these people's policies are not very imaginative. So you could talk about John Cornyn, Chuck Grassley. Are they qualified to be in the Senate? Sure, they're qualified to be in the Senate. Are they moving the country forward in a direction that is really changing and people can feel the change in positive ways? I don't know yet. I don't think so. Hopefully they'll try to get this crime bill through, the criminal justice reform bill. At first pass, I think it is a good bill. I'm not an expert on that topic, but we'll see. I think we're really going into a Senate term, into a term in Congress where you're going to see a lot of friction in the House between Trump and the House leadership, because of course they're going to be investigating him. Whereas in the Senate, you're going to see a Senate Democratic leadership that's basically been rendered completely impotent, and the Republicans are going to use it to their advantage to get their nominees through. So that's about it. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, subscribe to my second channel, Razor Ray Live Wounds. Also, please share the video and comment when it uploads, and also tip me on the Patreon if you're interested. Sorry for all the pauses. Just been really tired today, and I have to go to work tomorrow. Not going to be anybody there because most of the other people are out of town on a conference. So I'll see you later. Have a joyous Wednesday.